How you living? Welcome to my channel. In this series of videos, I just want to talk about some things that we all have to deal with in life. We live in a time where, to me, there is no more sense of pride. There's no dirty laundry that hasn't been aired out. There's really nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be put out that hadn't been put out. So I just like to share some thoughts about certain issues.
Is it legit or illegit?
Illegit.
Uh-oh, why is that?
You can't in today's society. You just can't put one race above another. I mean, people is people, and all lives matter. And my opinion, I think the guys is provoking the cops. That part you don't see. You see the aftermath or videos after the fact. What happened when you get pulled over from the beginning? I need to see all that.
Yep. In this video, I would like to discuss the similarities and differences in Black Lives Matter and the first civil rights movements starting at 1960, just to take a look and see how far we've come. Let's go over some differences and then we'll hit the similarities. Differences, well, one of the first differences is that if you look here in the 60s, we were after basic opportunities. Basically, we just wanted the ability to go to schools. If we patronize your business, we wanted the fair treatment of being able to go through the front door and sit down and eat and not go through the back door. You know, my father, when he was in the Army, him and his buddies would tell stories of, you know, black soldiers who were given guard detail of German prisoners of war. Well, you know, back then it was just part of the deal. Picture it. You're an American soldier in charge of guarding German POWs, Nazis, you know, remember those guys? Well, when they would take them to a cafe or somewhere to get something to eat, as crazy as it sounds, the black soldier had to escort the German POW to the front door and then guard him from a distance. And then for the black soldier to get something to eat, he had to walk around back. So the German POW gets to walk through the front door and eat, and the brother have to walk around back. That's what we were marching about back then. We didn't want a free ride. We did not want nothing old. We just wanted a chance to go to college, just a chance, just the opportunity. If we don't make it, oh well. We wanted to serve equally. So if a black man was in the Army, he wanted to do all the same jobs, just a chance. He wanted to fly fighter pilot. He wanted to do the same things that his counterparts wanted. And the inclination was, so does every other person of color, not just us. Hispanics, Asians, all just wanted. But that was the point. In the 60s, everything was about the fact that the black man, the black woman can do the same job as a white man, white woman, given the opportunity. And it was about self-reliance. It was about responsibility and being responsible. Even though there's an unfairness, even though there's an injustice, we were taught that we were responsible for our problems as a people. Yes, things needed to be fair, but it was more our responsibility than it was anyone else's.
That we had workshops, and the workshops in nonviolence made the difference. We began to understand the philosophy behind it, the tactics, the techniques, how to in fact begin to take the blows and still respond with some sense of dignity.
Nigga! Nigga!
Lawson's plan to confront segregation directly was a bold step. The first target for this direct action. The students remained true to their training in nonviolence. When the police vans arrived, more than 80 demonstrators were arrested and charged with disorderly conduct.
The day that the police first arrested us, they announced to us, okay, all you niggers, get up from the lunch counter and, or we're going to arrest you. And their attitude was like, well, we warned you. So they repeated it a couple of times and nobody moved. And of course, we were prepared for this. So they said, well, we warned you, you won't move, okay, everybody's under arrest. And then they turned and they looked around at the lunch counter again, and the second wave of students had all taken seats. And they were confounded. They kind of looked at each other like, now what do we do, you know? And they said, well, okay, we'll arrest those two, and they did it. And then the third wave, and no matter what they did and how many they arrested, there was still a lunch counter full of students there.
To the jail, certainly, Lord. Well, if you've been to the jail, certainly, Lord. Certainly, certainly, certainly. Well, if you give you 30 days, certainly.
Parents worried that arrest records could hurt their children's future, and they feared for the safety of their children.
Well, there was plenty of anxiety on my part, but I always think of what Matthew Jr. told me. When he called from the jail, he said, be cool, mother. And that was very trying, and yet it was amusing, too. He's telling me to be cool at this point. So even now, when I think of it, I get quite a bit of fun out of it. Just hearing him say it, I can't say it as he said it, but he said, be cool, mother. And I tried to be cool.
Sir.
So let's take a look at where we are now.
Can I ask you, why are you cursing a police?
Man, the police and you too, man.
Shut the up! The press is just as bad as the police. All part of this. Get that out of my face.
I asked you why you are cursing the police and why you're here. Tell me why you're here.
You here? Why the
Fuck you, man.
You
don't come on, man.
Get the Get the out of here! Out of here! Get the out of here! Get the
And we needed him to say integrate the counters, or to tell Nashville to do what Nashville knows it should have done a long time ago, like about 95 years ago after the Civil War. So I asked the mayor, first of all, Mayor West, do you feel that it's wrong to discriminate against a person solely on the basis of his race or color?
They asked me some pretty soul-searching questions. And one that was addressed to me as a man, and I tried as best I could to answer it, frankly and honestly, that I could not agree that it was morally right for someone to sell them merchandise and refuse them service. And I had to answer it just exactly that way. Of course, I received considerable criticism for it, but had I to answer it again, I would answer it in the same way again, because it was a moral question and was one that a man has to answer and not a politician.
I have a lot of respect for the way he responded. He didn't have to respond the way he did.
United States of America!
If you do not listen to her, your event will be shut down right now.
Here will be
Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon. Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon. Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon.
This group marching at the state fair, chanting horrific things. Pigs in a blanket, frying like...
All right, so we've talked about the differences. One, more self-reliance, more of a we just want a chance. We want a chance at schools, at education. We can do the same job. And many times, if you look at, say, the Tuskegee Airmen, they were going way over the top, way above and beyond. So we can do the same job as our white counterparts. That was the point in the time. It was nonviolent and it was self-reliance. And our leadership was different back then. Now it's all about self-entitlement, victimization. And basically, because we've decided that you can't spank children, and if you leave a mark, you go to jail. Well, now the children of that mindset just tear up the world if they don't get what they want, and basically, that they deserve. It's not a chance. It's we deserve a good life because we're just born. Somebody gave birth to us and this is what we deserve. And so there's the difference. Now let's talk about similarities. There's one similarity that stands out. There's one thing that both movements have in common, and that's everybody was black. Our leadership was different back then. Even before, when you even look at times after slavery, the abolitionists and Frederick Douglass and Benjamin Banneker and people like Booker T. Washington, he noticed it then, that the worst thing to happen to black people was when civil rights became a business. And it's almost like the people who were the Dixiecrats back in the day, who were fighting to keep slavery. Of course, they changed their name from Dixiecrats to Democrats. It's almost like they hauled off and got smart and learned to hide their agenda. And they financed this new leadership style, which preaches victimization. You the white man is, and you can't. And every time there's a criminal on TV, you see this new style of leadership. And it's almost like the more racist it actually is, like the guy, where it's undeniable racism. Some skinheads drag somebody through the street. You don't hear from them. You don't hear no marches, no nothing. But as soon as the person who is a victim is a criminal, you're going to hear from them every time. And I'm saying to people who abide by the law, who got jobs and trying to handle their business, it's not the same. Remember Charleston? And that guy shot up all those people at a Bible study. And he actually was the real deal. He wasn't no law enforcement. It wasn't there were none of those people in the Bible study. None of them had any criminal records. They were just, and the cold-hearted thing was the guy actually didn't. He was actually contemplating whether or not to carry it through because the people were so nice to him. Well, we didn't hear nothing. We heard forgiveness and unity, but there was no marches. There was no Black Lives Matter. You had a authentic case.
We have big hearts.
Nothing. You didn't even get a speech by Al Sharpton, Jesse. Nothing. You didn't get nothing. Then this is the point that I'm making. The main difference between Black Lives Matter and the original the reason we don't have the support, the reason it's so divided, and I think that was the point from the get-go, but the reason it's so divided is it revolves around criminal activity. That's the elephant in the room. For Black Lives Matter to get involved with you, you have to be running from the cops. And the last thing was this crap in Milwaukee. I expected some arguments and some protests, but I didn't expect them to try to tear up their own city, because black crook, black cop, protests. And we don't see the irrationality in that. We don't see that. Now it's just law enforcement, and that's the difference between the original protests, the original civil rights movements, and Black Lives Matter. Is Black Lives Matter ought to be changed from Black Lives Matter to Thug Lives Matter, because that's what it's about.
By now, you guys already know what happened in St. Louis last night. Police officers went to go, pretty much what they did was they went to execute a warrant for an arrest for a very, very bad guy. When they came to get him, instead of going peacefully, having his day in court, he decides to pull out another stolen gun, shoot at the police. Police shot back, and he was killed. Within the same time frame, news broke out about a 9-year-old girl in Ferguson died in a drive-by shooting in her room doing her homework. She dies by a stray bullet to the chest. Last night, who do you think they protested for? The thug, the criminal. Because they're hollering police brutality. Are you fucking kidding me? Police brutality? How about black brutality?